So this is 100% unsponsored. I ordered the Aiper Scuba S1 from their website. Got it on sale. And I've been using it now for a couple months. I've used it over a dozen times. And so I'll give you some feedback today. I'll talk quickly about what is in the box, what comes with the device. I'll give you some impressions on setup and show you some of the operation. And then talk a little bit about its performance, so-called smart features, and then the maintenance you need to do on it, and then and a couple tips, as well as all the pros and cons that I've come up with so far. So yeah, unboxing. I'm really not going to do an unboxing of this thing. Here's a couple of still pictures. It's what you would expect. The box got shipped to our door in a big box. Inside that box was the Scuba S1, along with the charger, a small retrieval hook, and a small manual. The design is pretty basic. It's all plastic. It does have plastic tracked wheels and an easy to remove top filter. Yeah, initial setup is very easy. Basically get it unwrapped. You want to plug it in. It's partially charged. It only took me an hour to get it to a full charge. And there's a light that lights up on the top. That'll kind of blink slowly while it's charging, and then once it's fully charged, it'll stay solid blue. But I want to talk pool specs. What type of pool you've got? How big is your pool? What type of pool is it? So my pool is it's a new construction. It's a Pebble Tech in-ground pool, just under 10,000 gallons of water. And we're running a salt chlorinated system. So we're here in Florida, like I mentioned, and we've got a pool cage over the whole pool. So that keeps out most of the heavy leaves and debris that you might get in a non-covered pool. So given that the pool is here in Florida, what I'm looking for in a robot vacuum is a vacuum that can clean the walls. Basically, it's brushing the walls for me. It's cleaning the water line, and then down at the bottom, being able to pick up the small leaves that do come into the pool, and then the sand and pollen. Get a fair amount of pollen that makes its way through the screen and into the pool. So cleaning performance, how does this thing do? Surprisingly well. First and foremost, it makes it up and down the walls easily, and it does do a good job scrubbing above the water line. Secondly, the amount of debris that it picks up was actually pretty surprising. It reminded me of when I first got a robot vacuum cleaner for my house, kind of like a Roomba. I didn't get a Roomba, I got a Eufy, like an off-brand one. But I remember, your house is pretty clean. And then you run that robot vacuum cleaner, and it's just surprising how much is in the basket at the end of the run. So, with the Aiper S1, it was the same thing. I thought my pool was pretty clean. I could see a couple small pieces of debris in the bottom and a little bit of sand in one area. And as I looked in the basket, man, there was a lot of debris that it picked up, to include pollen, sand, and a couple of leaves. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is if you need a secondary filter on a robot vacuum cleaner. And at first I was kind of really enamored with the idea of having a nano filter or a secondary filter that would help pull out algae and other kind of micro particulates out of the pool. And this one does not have that. So the Scuba S1's just got one regular filter basket. But as I thought about it and as I researched it a little bit more, when you think about how the pool cleans that type of debris out of your water, it's through the main pool pump. And the filter in the back of that pool pump, mine it's a pleated paper filter, and that's what's capturing all those really fine microparticle debris. And that's going to do it much more effectively and efficiently than a little robot kind of going around your pool and sucking in a little bit of water. I also use on my skimmer, in the skimmer basket, I use a skimmer basket sock, which is just a small sock like thing that you put in the basket, and that helps capture some of the smaller particulates, not like nano stuff, but more like pollen and that type of stuff. It just saves a little bit of work from your main filter. Okay, smart features. The Aiper S1 claims that it's got a wave path nav technology. And in practice, not so much, honestly. It tries, but if you look at the diagram, it shows it just kind of going up and down the walls and back and forth at the bottom of the pool in these perfect patterns. In practice, it tries to do that, but a lot of times it gets off and goes kind of on a sideways, can't, or doesn't cover all of the wall. But it does make its way back around and seems to cover all those parts of my pool over time. But it's not a smart robot. Like, there's no LiDAR, radar, no other type of tech involved in this robot that I'm aware of. Yeah, in fact, I've had it happen several times where I've got a thermometer that just sits into my pool and can get knocked around. And the robot vacuum just sucked it up, and it actually jammed them up a little bit. So take all the obstacles out of the way of the robot vacuum before you run it. Yeah, as far as maintenance and cleaning, it's pretty easy. I mean, you open up the top, you pull out the basket, you can rinse it out with water, or you can just let it dry for a day and then just kind of scrape it out with your hand. Both methods work fine. I've tried them. And then the only thing else you gotta do is keep it charged up. So for me, it takes about 2 hours to charge it, and yeah, pretty simple. Now, over time, I believe there will be other maintenance issues you'll have to do with the Aiper S1, just like the Roomba vacuum that you have in your house, that you've got to replace the roller. You've got to replace on the Roomba the little brushes on the side. This is going to be the same kind of thing. So the tracks eventually are going to wear down, and there's some other little rubbery bits on the front of the Roomba, or not the Roomba, the Aiper, that you're going to have to replace over time. It's just going to happen. Okay, pros and cons. I would say for sure the pros are, it gets the job done. It does a good job. I was pleasantly surprised at how much debris it was able to pick up out of a relatively clean pool. That includes pollen, that includes sand, and that included some small leaves. Second pro for me is wall cleaning. This pool bot has no problem getting up and down the walls and cleaning the water line. So that's a plus for me. The third one is the battery charge. For me, this pool bot's running a good 3 hours and 20 minutes on the charge, which is fantastic. And then the last pro for me too is it's pretty quick to charge. About 2 hours, and it goes from a dead battery to a fully charged battery. So really not bad on the charging time at all. Okay, cons. I mentioned it before. It's not a smart vac, even though it says it's got this wave path technology. It does its best to kind of get around your pool. It does not map it at all. But like I said, it does seem to get through it. The second con for me is I've got a sun shelf on my pool, and it will not clean up on the sun shelf. It's too shallow, and the way that the robot works is there's a vent on the top of it, on the back top, that kind of pushes the water through with the fan to keep it moving, and it just will not work on the sun shelf. So I've got to brush the sun shelf still. The other con is just some of the build quality I'm not sure of yet. I've only had it for a few months, so the charge port cover is a little rubber piece that sticks into the charge port. And if that deteriorates over time, it's going to let water get into the charge port and corrode it up. Again, salt and chlorine, not good for electrical things. And then overall build quality, it is plastic. And I have noticed it's kind of scuffed up around the front of it already, just from, like I said, about a dozen uses. And I mentioned those rubber bits. That's both for the tracks and for underneath the front of the robot. It's a soft rubber, and I'm just not sure how long it's going to work. Another con, this really isn't a problem for me, but it could be a con for you, is when the battery dies, the Scuba S1 does a self-park. And that self-park is pretty much wherever it dies. So as it's dying, it'll just go up and it'll stop against a wall. That could be in the shallow end, that could be in your deep end, that could be, you know, over by your water feature. That's a real pain to get to. So for me, you know, like you saw my pool, I've got a 360-degree access to it, and I can pull them out, so it's not a problem. But something you may want to think about if you've got a larger pool with a lot of areas where you really can't get to the side to easily pull him out. Tips and tricks. So something happened to me as he did park in the deep end of the pool, and I was trying to get him with the little hook that's provided, and the hook fell off of the pole. So how do you get him out now? I don't have the hook. Well, the robot vacuum is pretty buoyant, and I was able to just reattach the brush, just a regular cleaning brush, to the pole, push that down, and I was able to kind of scooch him over to the shallow end of the pool. And it's pretty buoyant when it's underwater. It's not that heavy until you physically lift it out of the water. So it's not a big deal. So a couple other tips. One is if you're not going to use it for a while, I recommend just rinsing it off with a hose, especially just get that chlorine off of it. Salt water for me, get that all out of there. Sometimes little sand and debris gets in the hinge area of the bot. So get all that cleaned out. My other tip is filter cleaning. Like I mentioned, you can either hose it out immediately or just let it sit, let it dry, and just brush it out real easily with your hand. The other tip is if you've got a second filter, you know, then you can just swap them, and which is I've been doing that lately. Just have a second one, and then I just flip-flop them and let the other one get cleaned out. Okay, so my final verdict. Is the Scuba S1 something worth considering? Absolutely. For me, it is so far performed wonderfully. I have not had any problems with it yet. I said I only use it 12 times, thereabouts. But it does the job. It cleans the sides, it cleans the water line, it takes out all the debris out of the bottom of my pool, and that's a lot less work that I've got to do on a weekly basis. So I do recommend it. Hey, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. If you've got any questions about my setup or anything about the pool or the overall operations, leave me a comment. Happy to answer any of those questions. Hey, thanks again. I appreciate it.